Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into education at the college level. My guest today is Philip Bates. He is the Director of College Prep for UWorld, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so Philip, usually I ask my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
So I had a kind of an interesting journey. I played soccer in college. So I went on scholarship to West Texas A&M, where I played Division II soccer for a year. And I had played obviously soccer my whole life, and that was my main goal. Let's play soccer in college. That's what you spend all that time running and practicing and doing. And so I did that for a year, and I got to travel with the team. I started every game that year. And in the spring, I said, this is not for me. I want to actually be able to finish in 4 years. I want to be able to go and do some fun stuff in college. So and my body was pretty beat down for so many years of soccer. So I gave up my scholarship, left West Texas A&M, and then went to Texas State. And Texas State, very different campus feel. West Texas was out in the country, and basically West Texas, a panhandle. Great people up there, but not what I was used to in Dallas. And then went to San Marcos, which is between Austin and San Antonio. And then went to Texas State, remainder of my college, my undergrad college, and played club soccer, which was fantastic. It was a perfect balance. You got intramurals, you got collegiate soccer, and you got club soccer kind of in the middle. So enjoyed that balance of being able to still play, but then also was able to really focus on my school. For me, I needed that focus, and was able to graduate and did graduate school later on. Once I was an assistant principal, I started doing graduate school at North Texas. So got my master's at North Texas.
Okay, so let's just go back in time before we get into what you're doing today. In high school, when did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year, senior year, or did you just start getting recruited an eighth grader?
Yeah, so for me, I knew I was going to college probably about first grade, second grade, because my parents were adamant that there was no other path for me but college. And so it was really just kind of the expectation to go. I didn't really get serious about playing soccer in college and kind of figuring out college till I would say probably freshman, sophomore year of high school, when you really start going, okay, my coach is pushing me. I'm starting to play at a high enough level where I'm going to try to do both at the same time. So I always knew I was going to go to college. Probably in high school, I knew, okay, I could actually pursue this in college and help pay for my education. And then for soccer, you really get heavily recruited your spring of your junior year and your fall of your senior year. It's a little bit later than it is for a lot of other sports. I mean, I know they're recruiting basketball players like out of the eighth grade, but it doesn't work that way with soccer.
So now you go to college, and you said you finished up soccer and didn't really want to do it, and then wanted to actually just go to school. What was the mindset? What was the school like before you transferred to the other school?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I wanted that full college experience and didn't know where I really wanted to go. My grades were good my freshman year, A's and B's. I really could have transferred to probably a lot of different places. But my roommate at the time, who also played soccer, his dad went to Texas State. And he was like, how about you and I go to Texas State? And we decided we'd go down there. We made a visit down there. It was beautiful to me. It wasn't West Texas. It was beautiful. The kids, the students there, I felt like looked like me, sounded like me, just kind of it had a good feel to me. And we decided to go there together. We're roommates down there. And I appreciated that because I had immediate connection to at least somebody.
Yeah.
and you know, that was an important thing to me. I moved as a kid. My dad was in the Army, so I moved every 3 years, every 2 years, every 1 year sometime. So I was like, I'm starting over again. I at least need to have one person that I know really well down there. So
Gotcha. So now you graduate
mhm.
from college, and how does one go from graduating college to the director of
College readiness, yeah.
yeah,
College
at UWorld?
So, interesting journey. So, I did my last semester in college. I majored in education, and my last semester I wanted to study abroad. That was really important to me. Love to travel. Wanted to study abroad. Took German in high school because that's where I was born. Because my dad was in the Army. Wasn't particularly, only took 2 years of that language. Wasn't particularly good at that language, so I knew I had to go somewhere English speaking. So my choices were England or New Zealand. And I thought, New Zealand for sure. I mean, that's how who goes to New Zealand? So I did my student teaching in New Zealand, finished, graduate, and literally got off the plane in Dallas and went directly to the top 4 large school districts in Dallas: Richardson, Plano, all the big, large ones. Walked in, said, I'm Philip Bates. Here's my resume. I really want a job. And they called me. First call I got was the first job I took, and went and started my journey as a teacher.
And so your career has always been in teaching?
No. So I only taught for 4.5 years. So I taught sixth grade, same school for 4.5 years. And about year 2, I was the teacher that during his conference time was going to help and going to look at other teachers and kind of wanted to hang out with students, wanted to see what was going on. I was bored kind of from an early time in terms of I loved my kids, loved teaching, but I just kind of wanted to see what else was going on. And so my principal was like, what are you doing? You're a great teacher, but it seems like you want to do this admin thing. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll go and be an assistant principal. So at 27, I was the youngest. No, I'm sorry. Let me go back a little bit. At 26, I was the youngest assistant principal in the history of that district.
Wow.
So they put me so I taught at a very, non-Title I school, kind of your typical suburban school. Well, they put me in the hardest inner city, challenging school for an assistant principal. I had no idea what I was doing. But I had a really great principal mentor and spent 2 years as assistant principal there, and we cleaned house. We got discipline under control, instruction under control. We took a low performing school to where we were winning awards everywhere, state awards, national awards, everything in 2 years.
Wow.
50, 60, 80 hours of work week. I mean, crazy work, but loved it. And in those 2 years was able to kind of accelerate my career. So after 2 years, they gave me a principalship at 27.
Wow.
At this awesome suburban school that maybe had been underperforming a little bit, but great campus. And I spent 3 years there kind of learning how to be a principal. From there, they put me back at the school where I was assistant principal because that principal had left, and they're like, you need to make sure this place keeps on going well. So they put me back there. That went beautifully. Got to see my teachers that I'd hired and worked with. They loved that. So did that for 3 years. And then the district called and said, hey, we'd like you to start trying junior high. Can you try junior high? Okay, sounds good. Let's try junior high. So they put me in a junior high, and I taught in elementary school, and I was an elementary junior high or elementary principal, never been in a junior high since I was in junior high. I mean, literally it was like, where do I stand? Like, I don't even know where to stand on the first day of school. So they stick me in a junior high. I do that for 3 years, and the high school that junior high feeds into, that principal retired, and they were like, hey, you want to come be principal of this high school? Once again, I hadn't been to a high school since I'd graduated high school. I'd never taught high school, and they got me, being a high school principal. Did that for a couple years, and that was as hard of a job as there is out there. I mean, I, I've had some challenging positions. High school principal's hard. I had about 3,000 students. I had 250 teachers. I had like 7 assistant principals. That was like managing a small town. High school principals who are working hard out there, that's a tough gig. Loved it, but needed a change in terms of going, okay, I've done this. My favorite level was junior high. I love junior high principal. And then I was looking to do something else, considering I almost went to admin where you're, kind of overseeing that stuff. But UWorld recruited me and said, hey, we're starting a college prep department and we want you to start it. And I was like, why not? Sounds good. I change every 2 or 3 years anyway. Might as well do something else. So started, and it was, the company was only 30 people at the time.
Wow.
And we had like almost 100% market share for physicians, getting them ready for their tests. We had about 60% market share for nursing, and we didn't do anything else.
Wow.
And that was 5.5 years ago. So I was able to build out my team, hire a bunch of ex-teachers, or former teachers, AP teachers, amazing SAT and ACT former tutors, just the most top-notch people in the world, and hire them. I've got a team of over 30 people now. Since I joined the company, our company is now about 300 people.
Wow.
We've been able to acquire a couple of key acquisitions. We do CPA, CFA, accounting. So I guess I mentioned that, law, medical, and now we do SAT, ACT, and AP. So it's been a heck of a exciting journey. And, people say they know what they're going to do when they grow up. They are dead wrong in a lot of cases, because you really have no idea what life's going to throw at you.
Sure.
A kind of unique.
So what is a UWorld all about? How does it work?
Yeah. So what we do is our slogan is we make really complex things easy to understand. So, we design content that mimic whatever exam you're taking, whether it be AP, SAT, ACT, medical, licensing exams. We want our questions to feel just like that exam's going to feel. And so we mimic those exams. And it's difficult to make questions that mimic those exams. You hire great people who have taken those exams or built those exams in a lot of cases. And then what we do is, what our forte really is building explanations to support those questions, because we believe in active learning. We believe in, being able to fill gaps as you're preparing for the exam.
Yeah.
So for example, for SAT, if you've got this really great math background, but you've never taken the SAT before, we're going to give you these great questions. And if you've got any gaps in your math, you're going to read these unbelievable explanations. They've got images, hyperlinks, and on your own, you're going to be able to fix those gaps and get that higher score that hopefully is going to get you into the university you're shooting for.
So now, how do students find you? How does anybody find you?
Sure. Well, and that's the challenge, right? The challenge is that, we believe in word of mouth because we're all about quality. We don't feel like we need to do any fancy, crazy, elaborate stuff, because we never have. We've always just been, hey, if you loved it, you're going to tell this person about it, and they're going to tell those 5 people about it. And so, we certainly obviously have a website. We've got a YouTube channel. We're starting to do some fun stuff on social media. But a lot of it really is word of mouth. Our AP products, for AP testing, that we sell to school districts.
Okay.
And so school districts are able to purchase through us. We've got a national sales team. We just launched that this past spring. We're in several really large districts in Texas. In the fall, we'll be across the United States. So we've got a consumer business, which is our SAT and ACT, and then we've got our district business, which is AP. So.
And now the schools are picking that up, and they pick up the tab for that, and then they give it out to the students.
Absolutely.
And how does it work for lawyers and doctors and everyone else that's CPAs? How
Sure.
does it work for that? Are you selling it to the law firms and that kind of stuff, or?
Both. So we'll work with the actual student. So, for example, our nursing students who take the NCLEX test. The NCLEX is what you have to take to become a nurse. They'll purchase, students will purchase us, or their actual nursing school will pick up the tab, and then they'll get us. So, we're wanting to help students wherever they are, whether it be individually or whether it be through a cohort or through an actual school. Either way.
So now, how do they take the test? Is it all done through their high schools or their wherever they are?
So it depends. Like the NCLEX test, we match the format of that test. The student will be ready. The nursing student will be, going through their preparation, and that school, that nursing school will basically, I believe they say, hey, you're ready to take the NCLEX, and then they'll take the NCLEX exam and pass it. For students, they obviously sign up on their own for SAT and ACT, and they've got to make some big decisions. And that's a challenging step, and that's where parents are a big help to students, is navigating when to take the SAT, or the ACT, how many times, how are you going to prepare, what your goal score is going to be. It's all about being realistic to me. I was never a student who was going to score perfect on the SAT or ACT. I didn't need to either. I was not a situation. I was not looking to go to those schools that require a crazy high score, but I needed to get a good score. And soccer coaches really wanted me to get a good score. It wasn't just my parents and me or the school even. It was a soccer coach wanting to, because they can give a lot more scholarship that way academically.
Sure. So how did the students? What do they actually do? Do they pay for these courses and then take them
Yeah.
somewhere?
So what'll happen for SAT and ACT? You'll sign up for a subscription, and we have a gigantic Q bank of questions, and they're set up and organized just like the SAT and ACT. So with the various sections, they can take timed and untimed. We have simulation tests that give a score predictor. They can do low, medium, and high. Lots of different ways to use our subscription, and lots of good ways for students to figure out where they are currently, how much work they need to do before the actual test. And it really is self-guided. We don't believe in making students watch 2, 3, 5, 7, 8-minute videos. Really, we're a big believer in that student needs to own that learning, and that student, that's a motivated student who's going to, work hard to get that higher score. They're going to know where their weaknesses are. They're going to know that, hey, grammar's always been a challenge for me. I'm going to really stick in the skill builder grammar section and really learn what subject verb agreement, how it's tested on the test and what it is. We've got a great app on the phone. So, we'll hear stories about students that are waiting for band practice to start and they're going through the app. It's fun because we hear from students every day. We have a feedback button on every single question. So if you go through a question and you don't like the explanation, you for some reason don't like the passage, you really love the math explanation, or you love an image that we do, you can write about it.
Wow.
And I get an email every day at 2 a.m. with all these comments. And these are kids from Nepal, from Singapore, from Colorado, from New Jersey, you name it. And it's so fun to see that kind of engagement. And it's also fun for us because we'll reply back to students a lot of times. I'll send them to my team and we'll reply back and say, hey, you just missed this part of the explanation. Or, hey, we might recommend this. Or, hey, thanks for catching that error, and we can live fix it. So the next night, if they pull up that same question, they're not going to see that error because we immediately fix it. So we're a living, breathing content. My folks, I have them take SAT and ACT tests. So you, as an adult, you can sign up for the test and go sit and take it. And so I'll have a 35-year-old SAT author sit down with high school kids because I want them to feel what that test is. I want them to see what the trends are. How many box block questions are on the ACT? We haven't seen one in forever. Like we need to see that stuff so we can make sure the content we're giving students is the best content to get them ready. We really feel that way.
Now, do you find that the districts that buy the subscription, the students aren't paying for that, or are they, or
No.
the
So
schools?
correct. And we have districts that will buy our SAT and ACT, and they'll buy it sometimes for kids that they're hoping to be national merit scholars. We will sell it to districts who are doing summer programs, like to get kids ready, like boot camps for SAT and ACT. So there's lots of different ways we'll partnership with a district, and that's pretty awesome because then the student doesn't have to incur those costs.
Cool. Sure.
But then we've got the flip side for the student that goes to a district and doesn't have any support that can buy it themselves. AP we are not selling as a consumer product yet, but I can see that probably happening. We just launched it. It would be great to have an AP bank for students who districts don't purchase our AP product. So
now, what age bracket do you see CPA people taking, lawyers, doctors taking the tests? What age bracket are you seeing with that?
Well, so like we have an MCAT product as well. Those are going to be juniors in college, sophomores in college, even seniors in college. And then you're going to talk about kids who have just gotten to med school, or students who have just gotten med school. They're in the early 20s. You've got also people taking the bar exam, early 20s to 40s and 50s. I mean,
Wow.
it's really kind of fascinating. CPA, same thing. Some people want to finish college, finish graduate school with a CPA, certificate. Others wait 15, 20 years of working in industry before they come and get one. We also do a CFA product. Same thing. You might work in the industry for years before you get that CFA qualification.
Yeah, and so the people who are coming to UWorld are all different ages, from 18 years old all the way up to 50, 60 years old, maybe.
Absolutely. We have 12, 13-year-olds that'll purchase our SAT product.
Wow.
Yeah, because we have a free PSAT test that we do that we just put out there so kids can get ready for that PSAT, kind of put their mind a little bit more at ease, and also to introduce them to us. So we'll even have junior high, middle school students, sign up for that.
And you're globally, so anybody can take you online from any country, anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So in Texas, is that the main headquarters is in Texas, and
that's our only headquarters in Texas. So we're in Dallas, Texas. We're close to the airport, which is kind of in between Fort Worth and Dallas, in the Metroplex, they call it. Beautiful building, great place to be. If anybody wants to know what working at UWorld is, I always tell them it's like the Big Bang Theory in real life. Because you've got the most intelligent folks, really, I think, in the world. We have Stanford grads, University of Chicago grads, Yale, Princeton, Johns Hopkins. We only hire basically the top 1%.
Wow.
of folks. We put people through a very rigorous process to make sure they have the content knowledge and the writing ability to be able to do what we do. It's a very difficult thing to do.
Wow, that's fantastic stuff. So we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to parents and students that are watching the show? What advice do you want to give them?
Sure. I would say for parents first, and man, is there a harder job in the world than being a parent? I don't know if there is. I have a 13 and a 16-year-old, and it's busy. I would say for parents, talking about college as early as possible. If you're making a trip down to Austin for something, stop by UT and have your student, have your child walk that campus. If you're going to San Antonio, stop by Texas State. Do campus visits when they're really, really young. Get their children to really see what college looks like and feels like, because I don't know if anybody looking back at their college will tell them the fond memories they had of the campus feel. You know, everybody's there for the same purpose. Everybody, you know, is working to the same goal. So I would encourage parents to get their children on a campus as early as possible and keep on doing that. Whether when you're driving around the country, that sort of thing. I'd say the other thing is just talking about it at the dinner table. You know, talk about college. What does it mean? What does it look like? You know, the earlier you can get that mindset in your children, the better off you are. For students, you know, I really think that you've got to meet a student where they are. You know, my 13-year-old and 16-year-old are going to have different paths to college. My 16-year-old will probably do junior college and then college. And therefore, we're not doing a ton of SAT and ACT preparation. We're doing some, and we want her to do well. My son is going to start early, and he's very studious, and I can push him a little harder. And we want to be pushed a little bit harder than my daughter. She's more concerned with the next musical or drama play she's going to be in than with SAT and ACT. And you can't force that. You know, you can encourage, but you can't force it. So that'd be my advice.
Great. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Enjoyed it.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.